Hello, I'm Shirief Nosseir, and I'm the EMEA Product Marketing Director for Security Management Solutions at Technologies. We recently conducted a survey around virtualization security and the risks that organizations are being exposed to due to inadequately securing the virtual environments. Three of the most pressing risks that came out of the survey included data sprawl, and 81% of respondents were concerned about the lack of control of the data moving in their virtual environments and the risk of sensitive information ending up on servers that are not adequately secure to hold this sensitive information. The second risk was around what we call at Technologies virtual entitlement sprawl. And the risk here that 73% of respondents were concerned about is the far-reaching privileges that are being introduced by the hypervisor layer and the risk of mistakes and abuse that administrators and privileged users might end up doing. The third risk is the inherent complexity of the virtual environments. And this is really amplified by three silos that are really taking place in today's environments. The first silo is basically 70% of organizations in the survey showed that they're using more than one virtual platform in their environment. So they might be using VMware, Citrix, or Microsoft. And the problem here is obviously all of these different virtual platforms are using different native security implementations and require different ways of securing and implementing policies to be able to secure and manage these environments. So this obviously complicates the way that we can secure these environments. The second thing is that virtual environments are being managed and secured separately to physical environments. And what this causes is obviously, again, lack of consistency and the requirement, the pressure on the staff to be having different kind of skills to be managing the physical environment separately from virtual environments. The last third area here, the third silo that we have, is that security is managed independently from infrastructure management and from service management. And basically with virtualization, we need to be able to reach higher levels of automation in our environment. And without the integration between security and the IT management pieces, organizations are not going to be able to reach the level of automation that is required to be reached. So in order to overcome these three risks, here are 5 recommendations that we need to keep in mind in no certain order. So the first thing that we need to keep in mind is being able to manage virtual as well as physical environment all as one infrastructure. And in order to do this, basically we need to keep in mind that virtualization is a disruptive technology. And this means that we cannot continue to manage our environment in the same way that we used to manage it in the past with physical environments. So what we need to do is we need to revisit the cliched three-legged stool of people, process, and technology. So we need to look at how our organization is structured and how are the different processes and policies and strategies are being put in place in order to ensure that there's no silos that are being created. But also, we also need to look at the technology and look at the solutions and the tools that can allow us to manage both physical and virtual environments from one central location. Also, at the same time, we need to ensure that the vendor that we're using has got experience in managing both environments and has got a history and a track record to prove it. The other thing as well to keep in mind is that we need to invest in security from the very, very beginning and to keep it in mind when we're planning from the very beginning so that we can ensure that there's a budget in place and that we ensure that any problems can be ironed from the very, very beginning so that we ensure that no silos are going to be developing in our environment. So the second recommendation that we have is looking at how to control data sprawl that we mentioned earlier. And in order to do this, what we need to do is to look at implementing a proper data loss prevention solution in our environment. And when we're implementing a data loss prevention solution, in order to ensure its success, what we need to do is to identify what is the sensitive information that we need to be controlling. And then once we we have this in mind, then what we do is to set the policies in our data loss prevention solution so that it goes out into an environment and identify and locate where is this sensitive information, and then be able to classify it, and then also then at runtime to be able to control this sensitive information and ensure that sensitive information doesn't fall into servers that are not secure enough for holding this sensitive information. The third recommendation to keep in mind is how can we manage the virtual entitlement sprawl, and how can we manage the privileges that are being assigned to the privileged users and the administrators that we have. So with this, what we need to keep in mind is that we're looking for solutions that can ensure that we're doing separation of duties, that is ensuring that the principle of least privilege is being enforced, but also ensuring accountability, and that if any administrator is doing anything, that we're keeping track of what they're doing in the virtual environments as well as the physical environments. The fourth recommendation to keep in mind is how can we keep security managed as part of the entire infrastructure that we have in our organization. And again, we're talking about virtualization and this disruptive technology, and we need to revisit all of our policies and procedures and the way that we're managing our environments and the solutions that we have there. So when we're looking at security, we also need to look at the IT management side of things. So we need to look at change and configuration management, we need to look at asset management, server provisioning, service catalogs, and so on and so forth. And integrating these with the security management pieces to ensure that we reach the level of automation that is required to really achieve the true benefits of virtualization. The last recommendation to keep in mind is how can we continue to be compliant with the regulations and with the audit requirements that we have in our organization. As soon as we move to a virtual environment, the virtual environment by nature is quite mobile and quite dynamic, and the virtual workloads start to be moving around our organization. So what we need to be able to do is how can we ensure that we have control and visibility to ensure that we remain to be compliant. And obviously all of the stuff that we talked about earlier, all of the other recommendations can help doing that, but also we need to keep in mind things like log management and security information management to be able to have visibility into our virtual environments and to ensure we continue to have compliance there. So for more information about the survey and to download a copy of that, please visit our Media Resource Center. Thank you.